Hi guys, what's up? How you all doing? Welcome back to another exciting video. Today we're going to be checking out something from Love English with Leila and Zebra. It's titled 5 Potentially Offensive British Words, British versus American English. This will be interesting. We'll be doing some very interesting similarities between the British and the American culture when it comes to a lot of things. So today's video will be very interesting because we've never actually reacted to something like this. But before we dive into this, I'm Oge. Welcome to the channel. It's your first time here. Super happy to have you here. Do well to like, share, subscribe, turn the post notification bell. Let's quickly see this together.
So today's lesson, super simple, looking at 5 words. 5 words that, when said in the UK, absolutely fine, quite acceptable, but if you are using them, well, not just in the USA, in America, but also with an American speaker, they could land you in a bit of hot water, meaning trouble. So the last that I'm going to share with you is a faux pas, an error that I have made with the language and an American that I really think was potentially very offensive and certainly quite rude. So I want to share my experience with you as well there. And I would love you to share any stories that you have where you have made a similar error, a simple case of using a word that in British English is perfectly acceptable, perfectly okay to use, but with Americans it might not be the right thing to say. So let's have a look. 5 super simple basic words that really could cause a little bit of offence. Number 1, rubber. Now, you could make this even worse by asking someone, have you got a big rubber? I need a large rubber. Now, ordinarily in the UK, this is not a problem. In the UK, a rubber is an eraser. When you've written something in pencil and you want to remove it from the paper, you can use a rubber. But in American English, a rubber is not referring to an eraser, something that you use at school, at work. It's referring to a condom. Yes, so if you ask for a large rubber as well, then you're really going to land yourself in hot water. This is such a small difference in language, but rather than offend, it would probably be quite entertaining if you make this mistake. But still, depending on the situation, if you're at work, you might not want to make this mistake. So just be aware, in British English, rubber, in American English, eraser. Number 2, a word that actually we use both versions of in the UK, but probably more commonly used, referring to a pacifier in American English or a dummy in British English. So I have a 2-year-old son. He had a dummy when he was younger, and that was perfectly acceptable. But dummy in American English means stupid. It's more commonly used to refer to a stupid person.
Oh, wow.
In the UK, we would normally call someone that's stupid an idiot. Either way, it's pretty offensive. But just so that you're aware, in case there's any confusion, that's the difference. So you don't want to be asking for a dummy.
Very interesting.
If you're in America, you'd be asking for somebody who's stupid. Has anyone seen a dummy around here? Has anyone seen an idiot?
Yeah.
Right, number 3. Now, oddly enough, I knew what the American word meant, but actually didn't know what the British version meant. So, hooker. When I say hooker, what do you think of? Yeah, I think most of us would probably think of this as referring to a prostitute. However, in rugby, a sport traditionally played, well, everywhere, we're not too bad at it in the UK. The Welsh are pretty good as well. But essentially a hooker is a position in a rugby team. Right, so a hooker is a forward who wears the jersey number 2. They're in the front row of the scrum, and their primary role in the scrum is to hook the ball with their feet, apparently.
Yeah.
If you know anything about rugby, you will probably understand what I said better than what I did. So, hooker, prostitute, most commonly used in America, but also in the UK. And in rugby, it's simply a position that's played. Right, number 4. Now, I think this is particularly useful because you could be insulting someone if you said, wow, I didn't realize your dad's loaded, or your parents are loaded. Now, if you say this in America, then your friend might think that you're talking about their parents being drunk, okay? That they've drunk too much alcohol, that they're intoxicated.
Really?
So in the UK, however, we actually use loaded to refer to someone being rich. It's colloquial, it's
I know
slang.
that.
If someone's loaded,
It's
they
slang,
have a lot of money. You might see someone with a particularly expensive car, or, I don't know, expensive jewellery, clothes, designer clothes, whatever it might be, and say, wow, they look loaded. But if you say this in America, you're suggesting that they're drunk, which could be insulting. It's certainly confusing. So I would love to know, any Americans out there or speakers of American English, would you confuse that? Would you think if I said loaded, I'm referring to someone being drunk or rich? I'm curious to know how familiar American English speakers are with the term loaded in English. Right, and number 5, there's a little bit of a story to go with this. I hope you enjoy. I moved to Portugal a year ago, and I initially met a very lovely woman with a son the same age as mine. We met for coffee, we took the children with us, and her son was playing on the floor. He was walking around, you know, as toddlers do, wobbling about, but he was picking up lots of things. And one of the things he was picking up off the floor were what I referred to as fag butts. So this is me speaking quite casually using English slang. Now, an American, when they hear that, fag butts, there's 2 things going on here. Butt, okay, can refer to the base of the cigarette, the end of the cigarette that's been discarded, that's been thrown away. And fag, or faggots as well, but in this case I'm referring just to fag, is actually a very derogatory, disgusting term to refer to someone who is homosexual, who's gay. It's a word that I would absolutely hate anyone to use. I would never use it to refer to somebody in this way. It's disgusting. It's a horrible, horrible word, but in my innocence, with my English, colloquial English slang, I referred to a cigarette as a fag, which is perfectly normal in the UK, but in America it would be a derogatory name for a gay person. So not a word you want to use, a word that could be highly embarrassing with the wrong people and certainly offensive. So, fag butt, okay, of course also referring fag, the gay part, and then butt referring to bottom. Arse. In the UK, we'd often say arse in the slang. In America, I think you say ass. But butt is also bottom. So I said fag butt, meaning this, but the connotations, the imagery that it conjured was probably something quite different. So embarrassing for me, humorous thankfully for my friend, but still something to be aware of. So let me know, have you made these mistakes with any of the words I've just shared, or is there another word that I have missed? An English word that's perfectly innocent in the UK, but in America, but not buttocks or fag butt, but in America could be very offensive, rude, or humorous. Do share, comment below if there's a story to go with it. I would love to hear more.
Wow, this was actually very, very, very interesting. I totally enjoyed watching this. I feel like the Nigerian English is a bit similar to the British English, because of course we speak British English in Nigeria, not American English. So most of the connotations I could actually relate to, because they are what I would know. Say for example, your father is loaded. It means your father is wealthy, he has money, he's rich, right? But in America, it's something extremely different. And I'm like, what? How would I even mean that? You know, but because that is what it means there. So it's totally different. For in America, when you say, oh, your father is loaded, it means your father is drunk, and that could be very offensive. Like, it could be very, very offensive. Another thing is rubber. Rubber, she mentioned, it was like an eraser they use in cleaning up, like in school, like after writing with a pencil, using, you know, that eraser, right? But in America, rubber is not an eraser. Rubber is a condom, you know. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what we even call rubber here is not even eraser. What Nigerian, I feel like I feel like our own English, even though we speak British English, we have something called the Nigerian English. Because we have our own connotations to a lot of these words. Rubber is not even an eraser here. We call rubber like plastic. You get like plastic, or plastic rubbers, or you know those bowls we use in the kitchen that are made of plastic. We call those kind of things rubber. Or those big bowls we use in washing, or buckets, we could call that rubber, yes. But I mean, rubber does not mean eraser here. So I feel like, in as much as we speak British English, we also have our own connotations, our own Nigerian connotations, and I feel like it is also very, very important. I did a video the other day about this American citizen who talked about 7 American habits that could be considered rude in the UK, right? And she mentioned a lot of things. So one thing I would love to say is that I feel like it is important that you know the do's and don'ts of wherever you are. Like, you try to understand certain things. There was this Nigerian lady that her video went viral. You know, in Nigeria we call medicine drugs. Like this medicine we take, like paracetamol, diclofenac, ibuprofen, like medicine. So she said her husband was sick and she had to look for the nearest pharmacy to go get medicine for her husband. But in Nigeria, we call medicine drugs. And she said she was going to buy drugs for her husband. And that was, you know, so when she got there, she was like, oh, she wants to buy drugs. And then before she knew it, I think it was in the UK, and before she knew it, there were police officers all over the place asking her questions, and she was very confused because she's a typical Nigerian woman, and she was like, she came to buy medicine for her husband. So they were like, no, what she said? She said she came to buy drugs. She still did not understand what was going on. And then they were like, so they had to take her away to the police station. They asked her questions. They went to her house where her husband was, searched the whole house to make sure that there was no drugs. So you see, so she came online and she was trying to correct other Nigerians because we have our own connotations, some of these words, and they could be offensive and they could get you into serious trouble just because she wasn't aware that drugs could mean like actually drugs, like drugs, hard drugs. But you know, it didn't mean, but in Nigeria, when you say drugs, it means medicine, it means paracetamol, anti-malaria, you know, antibiotics. That's what we call drugs here. We don't mean, so do you understand? So it got her into serious trouble. So what I'm just trying to say in essence is that it is very important that you are using the right words. So if you are not sure of what you want to say, you actually have to ask probably somebody that you're very familiar with before you say, so you don't get yourself into serious trouble. Just like she said, some of these words could actually be very, very offensive, like very offensive. So I would love you guys to drop in the comment section some of your experiences, some words that I think could be very offensive either in America or in the UK. Your comments will be I'm waiting for your comments, okay, in the comment section. Do well to like this video, share with your friends, turn on your post notification bell, like it and give it a thumbs up. Watch my ads, watch to the end. Yeah, okay, I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.